The nub of our conversation this morning is whether or not, should that scenario arise, would this military be up to the task? And let's look at the number of red flags now that have been raised. This issue, for example, of 75% of aircraft grounded because of no fuel or little maintenance done, and also because of a lack of spare parts. That's something to be worried about.
Oh, absolutely. Let me try and be nuanced about this. So defense budgets are normally divided into three main categories. You have your personnel budget, you have your capital budget, and then, of course, you have your operational budget. And what we have seen in South Africa over time is that the personnel budget has grown to such an extent that there's almost no money available in the capital budget. The little money that's available after the personnel have been paid is used for operational purposes. So there's almost no money for maintenance and the procurement of new equipment. So we're basically sitting with a zero procurement budget. You know, the equipment we have in the inventory of the military at the moment, it's the same equipment we had in the military in 1994. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm just saying that over time we have fallen behind in terms of technology, the maintenance of our technology, and having cutting-edge technology available. You know, you mentioned the aircraft, but let's just talk about the logistical fleet of the military. I'm talking about trucks. The Sawmill truck range was brought into the military in the early 80s. How many cars on South African roads that were bought are still driving on the South African roads that were brought into ownership in the early 80s? Not many, eh? And yet in the military, we're sitting with a truck range that's been through a war in Namibia and Angola, and they are still our primary truck range. They are basically done, and I'm just using this as an example of how we have fallen behind because our capital budget is not making provision for maintenance.
80% of that budget, in fact, you talk about personnel, goes into salaries and benefits. I mean, somebody might say this is a job scheme.
Well, once again, you know, the question here is what the government wants to use the military for, because there's nothing wrong to use the military for, and as an employment agency, if I can put it like that, if that is the government's vision of how they want to use the military, there's nothing wrong with that. But then they should have a clear understanding, and they should be open with the people that, with society, that listen, we're using our military for purposes of employment. That's the strategic purpose we're using our military for, to employ as many people and to channel as much salaries as possible to people in need. That's one way to utilize the military for nation-building purposes. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But then you need to understand you're going to run into capacity problems in terms of deploying the military and its deployability. There's, of course, other structural problems also that we're sitting with.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.